Still alive. Oh, who's that? Alright, we got this. So it's been a while since I made a video. I only just realized that I completely stopped making videos. I actually completely stopped editing videos as I couldn't stand the thought of staring at myself on a screen for hours on end while I edit them. That's something I really need to work on because it's not very nice. Today I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to edit this video that I filmed months ago. A Pre-Raphaelite exhibition that I went seeing at the Ballarat Art Gallery. It was fucking incredible. Changed my life. It actually did. It really changed my outlook on art making and painting and what a fucking privilege it is to be an artist right now. Never been a better time to be a painter, ever. And I am being a massive silk by being scared of becoming fodder for a group chat. Yeah, oh, they're gonna love this. Don't tell me Halloween's over. Halloween's never over. So the exhibition I went and seen was the Pre-Raphaelites. And the main reason I went to go and see it is because I love William Morris. Don't know who William Morris is? I actually bet you do. You might not know that name, but I bet you would know. I'll show you what William Morris interiors are, and I bet you will know who I'm talking about. I thought I was just going to look at some nice wallpaper. No, that's not what happened. I am obsessed with interior design and how your interior space has a direct effect on your well-being and on your mood. My interiors are furnished by Kmart and Facebook Marketplace, but my Pinterest board would suggest completely differently. The Pre-Raphaelites were a group of dudes. It was like a core group of 3 people and expanded out to a whole group of poets and writers and artists. And I think musicians, but also art critics as well. And the 3 core founders were Dante Rossetti, who's probably the most famous of the Pre-Raphaelite guys. Grew up in a family that was very cultured. His sister was also a famous poet. In her poem, In the Artist Studio, she says, when referring to like how male artists are painting women through the male gaze, she says that he sees her not as she is, but how she fills his dreams. But the biggest supporters of the Pre-Raphaelites at the time were Thomas Combe and his wife Martha. Thomas and Martha owned the Oxford University Press at the time. So they would buy and commission most of their paintings. And I'm pretty sure that most of this exhibition that we've seen came from the private collection of Martha after she passed away in 1891. She left it behind in her will, which is how we get to see it all today. Visually, the subject matter is delicate. Also, literally, the medium that's used to make these paintings kept in the dark because the light is degrading them slowly. It's almost like the medium that's used to make these prints is like exemplifying the subject matter. Like you have to go and see it before it disintegrates. Very emotionally charged, and I just wasn't expecting how much I got out of it. Thought I was going for some interior inspiration, and what I got was like interior emotional inspiration. Right alongside this notion of wanting to bring beauty into the world that was kind of industrial and dark at the time, underlying current of oppression and tragedy. Whole group of 3 dudes. Dante Rossetti, who's arguably the most famous person. William Holman Hunt, who's an artist, and also William H. Morris. My wallpaper guy. He's much more than that, but minimizing. They all met each other and they had a common consensus that art was at its peak during the time of the Renaissance, before and during the time of Raphael. They call themselves the Pre-Raphaelites. It's funny because I always thought they were so much older. I thought Pre-Raphaelite art was way older than that in the terms of art history. It's really not that long ago. So it was this real duality to the whole movement. There was like really soft, romantic, ethereal gestures plagued by trauma and oppression and the reality of life in Victorian England for a lot of people. The most heartbreaking expression of that was this painting by Simeon Solomon. Fell in love with it. I thought it was an oil painting, and then I looked at the thing and it's a watercolor. Actually, he did watercolors painted with them really thickly but added a lot of white to the paint, which gouache, am I right? Am I wrong? What's heartbreaking about Simeon Solomon's paintings is that while everyone else was in the mind of painting women that were models, friends, their wives, other artists, poets, Simeon Solomon was a gay man living in Victorian England at a time when it was punishable by law. He made this painting at the age of 23. And then at the age of 30, he was arrested for and charged for homosexuality. And after that, he never had a public showing of his works ever again until now. To make new works and to survive as an artist and to sell paintings, even though he had massive support from people like Oscar Wilde at the time. The trauma that must have been inflicted on someone at a time like that for just being prosecuted for just being who they are. And understandably, that led to a downward spiral and a life of poverty. At the age of 65, he died in a London workhouse. What an absolute waste of a person's life. I'd never heard of Simeon Solomon before, and I wish I had, because his paintings are incredible. He's not the only one that suffered that fate as well. The only female artist that exhibited with them was Elizabeth Siddal, otherwise known as Lizzie. She became Dante Rossetti's wife. Dante Rossetti was married to Elizabeth Siddal, Lizzie, also having an affair of 10 years with William Morris's wife, Jane, who was the head embroiderer at the Morris & Co factory. Jane was also one of the most prominent models. Like, a lot of the paintings from that era are either Lizzie or Jane. One of my favorite paintings forever of all time is Ophelia, and it turns out Elizabeth Siddal was actually the model. The story of how she came to pose for that painting, tragic. So John Millier painted that. As he painted the landscape, he went out into the same spot in nature every day for a few months and painted it and painted it and painted it. And then the last 5 or 6 hours he did, where he put the model, Lizzie, in a bathtub in a full, heavy, beaded wedding gown. That bathtub was filled with water from the fucking Thames River. Horrid. Her family had just lost her brother to tuberculosis. She's lying in a bathtub full of cold, dirty Thames water. And John Millier decided at 5 hours, maybe it was time to stop, because she couldn't stop shivering. Did try and keep the water warm by placing candles underneath the bath, but they kept going out because you're not going to heat up a whole bathtub full of water with a fucking candle. So shivering and covered in dirty Thames dishwater, got her out of the bath, and her family called the doctor, took her to the doctor, and she became really, really sick, and they think it was with pneumonia. And to treat the illness that she got, her doctor prescribed her laudanum, which is what they used to put in absinthe to make you hallucinate. Laudanum is opium suspended in alcohol, and Lizzie, understandably, developed drug dependency. But there's one painting of Jane that I absolutely love. Around that time, a lot of paintings have a lot of narrative and symbolism that's expressed through different types of flowers. The Victorian era called floriography. When you can't say something, use certain types of flowers, have certain meanings. People used to send bouquets to each other to have hidden messages of like, these flowers with these flowers with these flowers would make like a full sentence of a message, and they would send to each other. And in a lot of Pre-Raphaelite paintings, they would use the same flowers to have meanings in the paintings. And this one painting that Dante Rossetti made of Jane, actually he started in chalk years before he finished it with oil pastels. When eventually their affair was ending, it's almost as if he's trying to keep his grip or keep her alive in his life, and he's losing sight of that. The flower that he used to represent that is in her hand is called a bindweed. The meaning of the bindweed in floriography is extinguished hope. So it sort of really adds to the narrative of losing someone, and also a painting that was started potentially when they first started falling in love and was only picked up and come back to she had left him. It's sort of an incredible journey with the painting, and to me that's like how powerful painting is, to say the things that you can't use words for, and maybe seeing something really beautiful in a time that's potentially very dark, which is also why I love William Morris so much. And there's also another interior design company that I love. I'm not sponsored by anyone for anything. If I had money, it would be House of Hackney. Probably do a really modern take on William Morris designs for contemporary spaces. William Morris was very much about craftsmanship, and he loved the Middle Ages. So he loved the craftsmen of the Middle Ages and wanted to bring that into 1800s Victorian times. When he started the Morris Company, he gathered all the best craftsmen and embroiderers and painters that he could find to make large scale, beautiful things to people to have inside their home, passed down to different generations. So now we see that as wallpaper, but it was like painted furniture, beautiful, elaborate tapestries, furnishings, and stained glass. And those things that he made are still in production today. That was the last part of the exhibition, was like the William Morris kind of room. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I came here just to see William Morris things. And then I'd just been through this whole world of like the realization that it's never been a better time to be a painter. It's never been a better time to be a female artist. My biggest hurdle is that it's my self-confidence that stops me from putting my art out into the world, but comparatively that's a pretty small thing. Even though it's all encompassing, I can handle that hurdle. No one's put me in a bathtub full of water from the Thames, and I almost feel like now I have this refreshed energy about I should just be painting. So I thought I was just going to look at interior design things, and I ended up getting really affected interiorly, emotionally. Those are not words. You know what I mean. But now I have this newfound kind of, it's almost absurd things that I'm worrying about of my own paintings and my own art making, that this is what I'm worried about. You know, I'm worried about being made fun of, and all throughout history artists have been trying to survive. So go and see an exhibition. Even if you just think something's gonna have pretty wallpaper in there, it might change your whole outlook on everything that you're doing and how lucky you really are. And then it also was like, I wonder what Lizzie Siddle and Simeon Solomon would think to know that they were now being exhibited and sent from one side of the world to the other, where curators on both ends are women, and they're both amazing. Christiana Payne is from the Ashmolean Museum. They have an incredible video on YouTube. I'll link it below. And that's where a lot of my deep dive came from, the Ashmolean Museum. So where I got to see the exhibition was at the Art Gallery of Ballarat, which is curated by Julie McLaren. And I just wonder, like, what better chance Simeon and Lizzie would have had in a world where curators are female. But I live in that world now, and it's my responsibility to do work and put it out there. I thought I was just going to look at wallpaper. Okay, that's all. Bye now.